Good evening and welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. The family of 5 living in a damp and mouldy 2-bed flat that officials have been warning for years is damaging their health.
If I move the bed, all damp. My son sleeping here. He has eczema and I'm sure the damp affected his health.
We asked the family's MP what is being done to improve social housing. Also tonight, an inquest in North Yorkshire fails to find a cause of death for a woman whose remains were found in the family house weeks after she died. We hear about plans to transform the National Science and Media Museum ahead of Bradford's year as UK City of Culture in 2025. And does this look fun to you? It is for the Yorkshire competitors taking part in an international ice swimming competition in France.
And wind and rain are features of the weather overnight and into tomorrow. Some heavy rain in places. I'll be back later in the programme with the full forecast.
Good evening and welcome to Friday's Look North. First tonight, more concerns about children growing up in mouldy, damp and overcrowded homes in Yorkshire. A father living with his 3 children in a 2-bedroomed high-rise flat in Leeds says his family have been struggling with asthma and eczema made worse by damp. In Leeds, there are now more than 26,000 people on the council house waiting list, with more than 5,000 in urgent need. Here's our social affairs correspondent, Emma Glasby.
In a Leeds tower block, a family of 5, living in a 2-bed flat with damp and mould all around.
That is my bed. That is my son, 7 years old. He is sleeping in this bedroom with me, and my wife, If I move the bed, all damp. My son sleeping here. He has eczema and I'm sure the damp affected his health.
The other bedroom also has mould. It can just fit in bunk beds for the girls aged 10 and 12. Sometimes their brother sleeps on a mattress on the floor. The older girl says it's hard growing up here.
It really upsets my brother because he sees his friends that they've got their own room, their own bed. Like, his childhood's not going to be like the rest of the people that are around him. My siblings struggle with it, my parents struggle with it a lot.
Do you struggle with it?
I struggle living in this house a lot. I don't even have space to, study for school and stuff. Personally, I feel embarrassed to ask my friends to come round because if they see the state that I'm living in, it's not great compared to what they're living in.
They don't have enough space, but the effect of the mould and the damp is another concern.
So do you worry about your family's health?
Really a lot. Clearly it's really affected me, my dad and my sister because we all developed asthma after a while. But my dad had really severe asthma which would, cause him to have breathing problems and he couldn't sleep well at the nights.
We've seen several letters to Leeds City Council supporting the family's appeal to move. In January 2015, a Leeds GP wrote about his concerns that damp was affecting one of the girls. She has developed a problem with coughing and is now using inhalers. In October 2020, the school wrote a letter saying the boy was suffering with eczema, which is aggravated by damp and dust. He is not able to focus on his learning due to lack of sleep. And in March 2021, a doctor at Leeds Teaching Hospitals wrote, "I believe the current housing situation of the family is not sufficient and is exacerbating his allergy and skin condition."
I'm very worried. I'm not happy. I'm very sad. The council is making for me big headache. I'm always thinking about my child, my family, but I don't have an other option. What I do?
Idris has a job but says he can't afford a deposit to rent privately. His family's lived here since 2014, but the council's now decided to demolish these towers to create space for more modern housing and says tenants will be rehoused over the next 2 years. It told us work will begin next week in this family's flat to treat the mould. The mould may be tackled, but the parents say this is not how their children should be growing up. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Well, earlier I spoke to Fabian Hamilton, who is the Labour MP for Leeds North East. I started by asking him why it had taken so long for the council to respond.
Well, of course, the answer is it shouldn't have taken that long. But unfortunately, Leeds City Council's budget, like every other major local metropolitan authority, has been slashed and slashed and slashed. And when you're trying to do more with less money every single year, it becomes impossible. And I'm afraid that family are one of the many who suffered as a result. This isn't because the council's run by any particular party. It's because central government funding has been cut back for these local authorities, including Leeds.
Now, these are your constituents living in these awful conditions. What can you do to help?
Well, my understanding is that these blocks are going to be demolished. So for these particular constituents, the family obviously in the piece and many, many others who live in those 3 blocks, they will be demolished in the next few months. All the tenants will be rehoused.
But we know there are 26,000 people on that council house waiting list. This is a housing crisis, isn't it?
It's been a crisis building for years and years. And I was elected to Leeds City Council in 1987, 36 years ago, and we still had a housing problem then. It's much more acute now because we just haven't built new social housing, council housing we used to call it, of course. And it needn't be like that. What we need is investment in modern, low-carbon, factory-built homes which can be assembled on site, which are so much better than anything that was built in the last even 10 years. And they could be built cheaply, they could be carbon neutral, and they could consume 90% less energy.
But it's not happening soon enough,
No, it's
is it?
not.
So these are great ideas, but these are people on waiting lists living in these awful conditions.
Absolutely.
What do we
And
do?
it's about investment. It's about the balance between local and central government. I think it's 7% of the income for Leeds City Council comes, and other local authorities, comes from the locality, 93% from central government grant. It's unsustainable and it's wrong. We're the most centralised country in Europe. We shouldn't be.
But is Leeds doing enough with the money it's got?
Well, Leeds is doing an awful lot more than pretty well every other local authority. Our house building programme is much bigger, in spite of those cuts, than I think every major city in the country. We've got a great record, but it isn't enough. It needs a coordinated effort between local government, central government, the West Yorkshire mayoralty as well, to build these homes, build, and build them as carbon neutral homes, low cost, for rent, through local authorities. And if we start doing that immediately, within a few years we will have solved this crisis. But until or unless we do that, we're not going to solve it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Fabian Hamilton, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next tonight, an inquest into the death of a woman from North Yorkshire has heard the circumstances of how she died remain a mystery despite a lengthy police investigation. Rina Yasutaka, originally from Japan, died in 2018. The inquest in North Allerton today heard her family had believed she was still alive, even though she'd been dead for several weeks. The coroner recorded an open verdict. Phil Connell has more.
Well, the body of Rina Yasutaka was found in 2018 at the family's home in the market town of Helmsley. Rina, who was 49, had moved to Britain along with her family from Japan many years before. She'd been privately educated here in North Yorkshire and had later graduated from Cambridge University. Concerns about her welfare, though, were raised by a chemist in Helmsley who'd reported that her brother and her sister had been buying large quantities of surgical spirit. Eventually, she raised the alarm, and when police arrived at the family's home, they found Rina's body in an upstairs bedroom. It's thought she'd been dead there for several weeks. Well, today at the inquest, statements from Rina's brother and sister were read to the court. They described how she'd become increasingly unwell. She wasn't eating or drinking, but instead of taking her to hospital, they said that they had decided to treat her themselves at home. They said that she was being nourished by spiritual food instead. Well, today, the investigating police officer, Detective Inspector Nicola Holden, gave evidence to the inquest, and she said that despite a lengthy investigation, the cause of Rina's death still couldn't be established. She also said that when police arrived at the house, Rina's family still believed that she was alive, and that was a belief which they'd held on to for several months after she died.
It is very unusual, but obviously very tragic and also very upsetting for the family as well, given they have lost a loved one, in circumstances. But yes, it is an unusual case, given the circumstances presented.
Well, this afternoon, the North Yorkshire coroner, John Heath, said that Rena's body was formally identified by her fingerprints. He said that the cause of death couldn't be ascertained, and because of that, the only option open to him was to record an open verdict. Phil Connell, BBC Look North, North Allison.
OK, you're watching Friday's Look North. Still to come on tonight's programme. The young Bradford cricketers already signed up by county teams as the women's game grows. In the past few moments, the Mayor of Doncaster, Ros Jones, has said that an offer by the city's council to buy the freehold of Doncaster Sheffield Airport has been turned down by the owners. The airport closed last November after the Peel Group said it was not financially viable to keep it operating. In a statement, the Mayor said she firmly believed the airport could be a success and that the council was considering Peel's proposal of a potential sale of the leasehold. A care worker from Pontefract who sexually abused a vulnerable man has been jailed. 32-year-old Damon Southers repeatedly abused the victim, who has learning difficulties, over 3 weeks in 2019. Southers initially denied the allegations after the victim disclosed them to family members. Today, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. A Labour MP says steel-making skills could be lost forever after it was announced yesterday that Liberty Steel will cut production at its plant in Rotherham. Nearly 200 jobs are under threat as the company prepares to use imported metals instead. It says it's been forced to refocus by rising energy costs. Liberty wants to increase production again when energy costs fall, but the local MP says that might not be possible.
What I'm most concerned about is we're losing specialist skills, and when they're gone, it's incredibly hard to train people back in those roles. And looking at the sort of the long-term future, unless the government steps in now and offers those contracts for the steel that we make, it's going to be very difficult to see a positive future for this business, and that's a terrifying thought.
Now, that's quite a backdrop, isn't it? The National Science and Media Museum in Bradford has announced it will close this summer for a year for a £6 million refurbishment. The museum says some exhibits from the archives will be on show for the first time in years when it reopens, all in time for Bradford's year as UK City of Culture in 2025. Corrie Wheatley has been finding out more.
Yes, there are some big changes on the way for the Science and Media Museum in Bradford. We're in the Wonder Lab exhibition at the moment, popular with visitors, the most recent significant investment in the museum back in 2017. Let's find out more now about these £6 million changes with the director of the museum, Jo Quinton-Tulloch. Jo, what work are you going to be doing?
Well, as you just said, it's a £6 million investment, and we're going to be creating 2 new permanent galleries, and these are going to celebrate our amazing collection, so they're going to be object-rich galleries, so replacing some of our existing ones, and then we're also going to be improving access, knowing that 2025 is going to be such a significant year for the city, for the district, Bradford district, so we're going to be opening up our main entrance. We're going to be making it much more open. We're going to be celebrating the fabulous glass front facade, and also very crucially we're going to be putting in a new lift.
Now, you are going to close in June for a year. That's in the short term, that's a big loss to Bradford City Centre. Why do you think it's so important that you're ready for the City of Culture in 2025?
Well, as you well know, we are one of the biggest organisations, one of the biggest cultural venues in the city centre. So for everybody in Bradford, 2025 is going to be such an important year. And so we want to be absolutely ready. We want to leave nothing to chance. We're going to be opening our fantastic new galleries at the end of 2024. We'll also have a very special exhibition on display in 2025, a big immersive exhibition as well. So there's lots to look forward to.
While you're closed, while the museum is closed, the cinema stays open, but you're also going to be doing some other work during that period of closure as well, aren't you? What's going to be happening?
Yeah, so we've still got to continue with everything that we're doing to be ready for 2025 and deliver these amazing projects. But also, we want to be doing a lot more outreach, both into schools. We've been doing an awful lot of work with local communities to help them feed into our Sound and Vision project. So all of that work will continue. So you'll see us more outside of the building, even though we're closed.
OK, well, the museum will close in June, but the collections on level 3, the Experience TV exhibition and the animations collection will close on the 20th of February. So if you want to come and see some of your favourite exhibits before they're closed down for a while, do so by the 20th of February.
Well, £6 million, we are expecting great things. Now, let's have some Friday night sport. Paul Ogden is here in the studio for us. Paul, we start with Leeds United, I believe.
Yes, Amanda, although I think Leeds United's selection, just like most of our teams this weekend, will probably be a lot different than their FA Cup lineups last weekend. But Leeds do feel a bit vulnerable at the moment ahead of their return to Premier League action tonight, away at Aston Villa, too close to the relegation zone, with their manager Jesse Marsh under fire from many of their fans. Our BBC Radio Leeds match commentator for Leeds United, Adam Pope, told us more ahead of tonight's game at Villa Park a short time ago.
So it's a big night for Leeds United, just 2 wins in 16 as they come to Villa Park, really in need of a victory to try and get away from the bottom places at the wrong end of the Premier League. And with me tonight on BBC Radio Leeds is former title winner with Leeds United, John Newsom. John, how do you see tonight's game going?
Tough game for us, in all honesty, Popey. As you've just spoken about, you know, down there at the bottom or near the bottom of the Premier League. 2 wins out of 16, which is not great, and I'm sure the manager and the supporters and the club want better than that. Always difficult to come to Villa Park and get a result. So you know, we're looking for a big performance from the boys tonight, really.
But how much pressure is on Jesse Marsh tonight to get a result?
Yeah, I think there is. It's difficult being a Premier League manager, but yeah, there is some pressure mounting on his shoulders because, you know, he came into the back end of last season and we stayed up by the skin of our teeth, and that was his remit, you know, and he did the job, and I think everybody was looking forward to this season being a little bit more positive, and especially the start that we had, where we got a few wins and we got some points on the board and we were up in the, you know, middle and top half of the table. I think people were hoping we were going to kick on and not have a season where you're looking over your shoulders, and unfortunately, you know, results haven't gone our way, and we are down there at the bottom end of the table, and points are a premium, and yeah, there's a bit of pressure on him because, you know, Ellen Road and Leeds United, it's full of Leeds United fans, and they all want the same thing. They all want to stay in the Premier League, and that's got to be the be all and end all for the football club this season.
Join us for all the build up very soon here on BBC Radio Leeds FM and DAB.
Now, away from football, wheelchair rugby star James Simpson has announced that he's retiring from the sport. Simpson, an Army veteran from Leeds, has won 31 caps for England. He was in the World Cup winning squad last year as well. His 10-year career in the Leeds Rhinos wheelchair team has seen him play in 7 grand finals. He will stay with the Rhinos in a coaching role. Now, you might think that most cricketers are hibernating because of the weather outside. Don't kid yourself. The winter nets are already getting very busy ahead of the new season right across Yorkshire and beyond. For example, the emerging young women's cricket talent at Bradford Grammar School, who have got a very big 2023 season ahead of them.
Let's go.
I'm Venus. I go to Bradford Grammar School and I'm on the Lancashire EPP pathway.
With the bat, a century against Warwickshire and a 50 against Cumbria last summer. With the ball, leg spin, delivered with a flourish and a smile. Unfortunately, you heard it correctly. Lancashire, of all teams, have had the cheek to sign our Venus up to their development programme from right under Yorkshire's noses while they had the chance. Always on the front foot, clearly. Venus is grabbing her opportunities with both gloves, just like her dad, AJ, a professional coach these days and a former Sri Lanka international who has made Yorkshire his home.
How big was women's cricket when you were playing?
Hardly anybody, as far as I remember. Sometimes when you watch the ladies' cricket and the men's cricket, there's not much different. It's getting bigger every day.
It should console some Yorkshire cricket fans that Venus's Bradford Grammar School teammates have been snapped up by Yorkshire's scouts. Erin and Lizzie have just as busy a winter ahead in the practice nets.
When you get first introduced to it, there's so many boys. We had to just fit into a boys' team, which is quite hard at first. But then over the years, they become your friends and you get less overlooked, so it becomes easier, so you get more opportunities to prove yourself as the years goes on. I'd like to try and work my way up to playing cricket internationally or just for Yorkshire Women's or Diamonds. But yeah, I have other sports which I'd also like to pursue, so.
This year we're going to have over 100 girls at the school playing cricket as their favourite sport in summer, and that creates now that we can actually put hardball teams out in every age group. That's the first time that's ever happened.
And that's your sport for now. I think that's your sport for now.
Well, you say that, Paul. We're going to stick with that sporting theme. Ice swimming. Thoughts?
My thoughts on ice swimming.
Your thoughts on ice swimming.
For other people. Thanks. Especially at this time of year.
Yeah, I'm far too nesh too. But yeah, if you think it's cold here, spare a thought for our next guests who have made a sport out of getting very chilly indeed. The International Ice Swimming Association's World Championships have just got underway in France, and several of the participants are from Yorkshire because, of course, we're made of tough stuff, aren't we? Well, earlier I caught up with 3 of them and started by asking where the passion to swim in icy water in January comes from.
Most of us are open water swimmers throughout the summer, doing endurance swims, maybe in lakes, rivers, channel swims, channel relay swims. And then swimming through the winter is just a natural extension of that. And that then follows on to swimming in the ice and coming to race for your country in the Ice Swimming World Championships.
I believe you only wear swimming costumes. Emily, how do you prepare for this?
We've been training every single day for at least 4 or 5 months now. So it's really just building your tolerance up to the cold, which we've certainly done with our training. So getting in will feel almost natural to us, although it still will be a shock.
So it's not a sport many of us will be familiar with. Laura, just tell me how you got into it.
I think I read about people who went swimming in the winter, and then I put a post on Facebook and a mutual friend of Jonathan's and mine put us in touch, and I turned up late, I might say, and he forgave me, and I've been ever since.
Just tell me a little bit about what the competition entails.
So the competition entails racing from the blue ribbon events from 1,000 metres, so the 1K, which is male, female and para distances, to 500, to 250 races, 100 metres, 50s, multiple relays, including the country relay, which is a 4x250, which finishes off the tournament on Sunday.
And Jonty, you lost part of your leg, didn't you, below the knee in a car accident? It's not held you back, has it?
No, I don't let things hold me back. Little inconveniences like car crashes and losing bits of my body. So yes, I'm pleased to say we've got a big para category here, for, compared to the last World Championships, and we're hoping to put the first 4x250 para relay into the races on Sunday, which will be fantastic.
I think it pushes you further.
It does.
It does.
Well, I can't wait to see how you all get on. Best of luck. I'm sure you will put Yorkshire very firmly on the map.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Sandra, rather them than me. Now, from the chilly waters of France to a heartwarming tale for you. The moment a York woman was reunited with her cat more than 11 weeks after it went missing has been viewed 1.7 million times online. Take a look at this. Oh, Amanda Appleyard had been searching for her pet Roddy since October. The moment she saw him was captured on her security cameras and has gone viral after being shared by the Yorkshire Post. Roddy has now settled back into the family home.
I mean, from the video, you can see I'm in tears. I'm just hugging him. I don't want to let him go. And I'm like, oh, you're not leaving me ever. I'm kind of glad we had the cameras on. The fact that captured it, the raw emotion, it really, I'd look back at it now and I'd still have tears in my eyes.
Oh, I'm crying with her. Keely, we're both big pet fans.
I was going to say, how do you think I feel? I love cats.
I'm more dogs, but you're definitely a cat lady, aren't you? I won't say a mad cat lady.
Yes, but you're too polite for that, aren't you? Right, let's have a little look at some of the photos, the weather photos that have been coming in. We've had a day of sunshine and showers. The first picture at Middlestown this afternoon. The second picture, another rainbow near Barnsley. And the third picture, I couldn't believe it when I saw these. Continuing in Paul's theme, challenging Paul's pansies. I give you Daffodils, I've not seen any of you.
I think they're even better.
Thank you very much.
Paul's pansies.
You can keep your pictures coming into the BBC Weather Watchers page, or you can tweet me at Keely Donovan, or I'm on Instagram, keely.donovan. So we have got some cold weather on the horizon to start the next week. Some cold and frosty weather, potentially some snow in the forecast as well, but a lot of uncertainty in that at the moment. What we are certain about is the next 24 hours is going to be wet and windy. Overnight tonight, that rain becoming heavy and persistent. The heaviest of the rain is expected over the hills, and we do have a Met Office warning out for the Pennines and the Dales. And then that area of low pressure is going to move away eastwards into Sunday. Sunday showers easing away south. It's probably turned out to be quite a nice day. And then cold northerlies for the beginning of next week, at least the first half of next week, I think. So overnight frosts, at the risk of icy stretches, and a lot of uncertainty, but the potential for some snow in the forecast as well. So it's certainly worth keeping tuned as we head through the next few days. We've had a fair few showers. It might be a little bit wintry out there at the moment. They are tending to ease away through this evening. There's one or two still remaining out there, but tending to ease away through this evening. And actually, it should be largely fine for the first few hours of this evening. Cloudy is going to spread from the southwest, though, and through the second half of the night, outbreaks of rain will spread from the southwest, becoming persistent and heavy in places, particularly for hillier parts, and of course falling on already very soggy ground. Temperatures falling back to around 5 or 6 degrees. It will remain blustery overnight as well. A quick look at those high water times then. Nearly 9:15 in Bridlington and just gone 9 in Filey. So a wet start to the weekend, windy too. That main body of rain is slowly going to ease away through the morning, leaving behind a lot of cloud, some patchy rain at times, but brightening up nicely for the afternoon. There will be a few showers still, particularly for the hills, the odd wintry flake perhaps, but generally and particularly in the east, a lot of dry and bright weather, but it will be breezy. And temperatures will cool off, I think, as we head through the afternoon, at 5 or 6 degrees by the end of the afternoon. It is going to get windier still, particularly across parts of North Yorkshire as we head through Saturday evening into Sunday, at the risk of gales or severe gales for parts of North Yorkshire. And then on Sunday, a few showers around to start the day. They'll tend to ease away southwards as we head through the course of the day. And then it becomes cold as we move into Monday, and actually for the first half of next week with overnight frost and ice, and as I say, the risk of some snow. More on that in the next few days, Amanda.
Blimey, you said the snow word.
Maybe snow.
Maybe. Watch this space. Thank you very much, Keely. That's it from us. Do have a lovely weekend, whatever you have planned. We'll be back with your late news and weather just after 10 o'clock. Hope you can join us then. Goodbye.